1.
Welcome everybody to the final instalment of Effective Communication. This is our last webinar for this subject, Effective Communication for Diploma of Business students. We'll actually be taking you through all of the assessment tasks. There are 3 assessment tasks to successfully complete this unit, this subject, and by the end of this session tonight, you'll have all of the information that you need to be able to successfully complete those assessment tasks and therefore have completed the unit and subject Effective Communication. You'll notice that there's just 3 assessment tasks. The second one, it's actually quite similar to a learning activity. You see how there's a little tick and on the left-hand side, the little icon there. It's actually reminiscent of the icons you see up in your learning activities. That one is just another learning activity. Assessment 1 has a few templates associated with it, and Assessment 3 is just a series of questions. Nothing overly complex about this set of assessments. Probably quite a standard sort of thing. Just for students' benefit, the unit of competence that we refer to here is manage meetings. And so this is in reference to that unit of competency. I'm ready to take it away if you are, Alyssa.
Let's do it. I'm just going to go and open that very first assessment.
So we're looking at Alyssa's screen right now.
Yep.
We're going to click on assessment task number 1.
Cool. And here it is. So I'll read it out, seeing I've got the screen. I'm the screen queen tonight. So that assessment task number 1 is identify a meeting that needs to be conducted in your workplace, and using the meeting notice template and the meeting agenda template provided, complete the following. So complete the notification and complete the agenda. So I was naughty. I didn't actually open those up before I started.
That's okay. We can show students how they open up those templates. So they will need to open them up. They'll obviously need to complete them and fill them out.
Yep.
So let's see how you do that. So right underneath that, you've got the 2 documents. Just click on them. Depending on the browser that you're using, Internet Explorer comes up with a box like this.
Yep.
Actually, Mozilla Firefox has a box similar to that. I think Google Chrome automatically, if you click on it, will automatically download it for you and send it to a predetermined area. Whichever browser you use will have a different methodology, but you click on it and effectively it downloads it or opens it for you.
Yes. And like this.
Enable editing. Yep, you'll always want to enable the editing on it so that you can actually make adjustments to it. So if you open it and can't understand why you can't do anything to it, just enable the editing. That'll open it up.
All right.
And
sorry, slight problem here with this.
What are we looking at there?
Oh, it's just,
okay.
Yeah, it wasn't opening for me. Let me just try it again.
Yep.
I'll just save it first, and then I'll open it. Sorry, if I open it, a lot of the time it'll just go straight to this. All right, let's try that. Yay!
Okay, that's what it looks like. So that's the first one. So, okay. So that's the first one. So what are the actual instructions for students here, Alyssa?
Okay, so the instructions are, going back to the assessment task. Let's have a quick look at the assessment task. All right, so what you've got to do is there's essentially 3 components. The first component is really about identifying a meeting that needs to be conducted in your workplace. So identify and be quite specific about a meeting that you might need to conduct in your workplace. What type of meeting is it? What's the title of the meeting? What's the meeting with regards to? And then the second part and the third part is really just using those meeting notice templates and the meeting agenda templates. Make sure you complete both of them. Okay, so the first one you would be looking at would really just be what you can see on my screen now. So obviously it's essential that if you do or you are conducting a meeting, that you have some kind of notification process. So what we've done here is you'll notice that there's a template that is available to you. So there's no need for you to create something different. You just really essentially have to complete this particular template. Okay. Just
guys, if you do want to get creative and make your own template, we're not going to stop you as long as you put all those elements in it. It's not a matter of design. This template's actually not that fancy. It's actually quite bare and basic. It's about what goes into it, so to speak. So we don't really, it's that's what we put in there is the main thing. So first thing is the company name, second date of notification.
Yep.
Now for students that aren't employed at the moment, and some students might say, look, I don't have a workplace at the moment that I can refer back to. We are happy if you just pick any kind of a meeting. So create a meeting, create a reason, or create a meeting, make one up yourself. Okay, so type of meeting, it's the Work Health and Safety monthly meeting. That's fantastic. Now don't forget, as per the content, there's effectively 4 broad categories or broad objectives to meetings. So goals for having meetings. So why would we have a meeting? So it could be to discuss. So, you know, we might just be discussing a particular issue or topic. It might be to decide. It might be to decree or to challenge some particular decisions or processes. So it might be things like continual improvement processes and things like that. Or it might be to demolish. This is all part of the actual learning materials that you can see there for the actual need to have meetings. But broadly speaking, just give us an understanding of what, you know, explain what the actual meeting is about. Yeah.
Yep.
The last one is to demolish. So as per the actual, as per the actual learning materials, just go with those ones.
Great.
There's potentially more just sort of generic sort of versions thereof, but we're happy with that for the time being. Now, who needs to attend? So we want a list of attendees. So give us a list there. Now that you might be looking at this thinking, well, this looks pretty easy, guys, and you know what? You're spot on, absolutely spot on. It's the art and craft of putting together a meeting notice. It's not about a fancy design. It's not about, you know, incredibly difficult content, things like that. I work in compliance, do I? That's unlike me. No, so it's about the art and craft of putting together a meeting notice. That's all we want to get you to do. We want to make sure that you are aware of, you know, the basic ingredients, if you like, things that you might put in your notice, and that's all. That's all we're asking of you guys.
Yeah.
Now there's a sentence below. Let's have a look at that sentence.
Yep.
Is there a number of people, a minimum number of people you want to see attending? I think personally 3 to 5 is a minimum number, because otherwise it's not really a meeting. If you only have one other person, it's a one-on-one.
Yep.
So really, I probably at least 5 people I would have thought there.
Yeah.
For that, you know, the attendees, minimum of 5 I would have thought.
Yep.
And yeah, put down their titles. I mean, we'll have to deal with that again soon, but that's okay. We'll put them down. Janice Joplin,
Oh, it's Janice J, Adam.
Oh, sorry. Different Janice. Can you just pop a Jimmy H in for me, please?
I can pop a Jimmy H in there for you.
We'll see that I'm happy. Now, Jimmy H, he is also chemistry, right? Well, probably. The science of strings. Okay, sounds good. All right, so let's continue. So you've put down the list of people who are in attendance, and you know what? It's not a bad thing to put the actual departments or their area or their role, because sometimes in business we don't have complete visibility on other departments, and we don't know what everybody else is doing, and it's just good background information. This is part of the reason why we do these notice templates. We want to give people enough time to be aware of, to think about things that they may want to consider as far as contributing to the meeting, and have enough time to prepare, which might also include who's actually coming. So if we are aware of the people that are coming and the departments and what they're actually effectively their contribution to the business, then we have a better understanding. In fact, the actual department name is probably more important than the actual person's name. So because if you just give me a list of people and I have no idea where they're working, then it's effectively, you know, useless information. I'd rather know what sort of departments are being represented in this meeting. Of course, it's important to put the person's name. I'm just trying to highlight that, you know, the importance of including that component, but effectively what they do, where they work. The next part there, notice is hereby given that the name, put the name of the meeting, and just fill in those gaps there.
Yep.
And then we want you to, underneath it, this is where you need to actually list off, you know, your purposes for the meeting. So the the reasons that we're actually having. So maybe some of your agenda items would go in here. We're actually going to get you to fill in the agenda next. So
Yep. Yeah. I've just popped in a couple of examples here.
Okay. You can keep these, as long as they make sense, they don't have to be overly detailed. You just have to give this is just a broad overview, and that's it. And then you can scroll down the list of I think you sign off, and that's basically all you need to do here, guys. That's half of this first assessment done. So put your name in and put a position, and just sign off on that nicely. Thanks, James.
Yep.
CEO, wow. Sounds good. That's beautiful.
Great. So that's pretty much that one. Are you happy to move on to the other part of that, which is filling in the template?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. Let's do it.
Yep. Great. All right. So hopefully everybody can now see. I've preloaded this one.
Now this is the agenda template. Sorry, Alyssa. Yeah, this is basically what's going to be given to everybody in the actual meeting, so that they can follow along and know exactly what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, here it is. It's here for you. You don't have to worry about designing it. If obviously you would like to design it, then I guess that's up to you. As long as it covers all the requirements that an agenda actually should. And it is already very much outlined here for you. As you can see, the agenda obviously is the document that goes out with the notification of the meeting, so people know exactly what will be discussed at the meeting. And it's also a good tool to use during a meeting for a chairperson or for whoever's actually chairing the meeting itself, just to keep it on track. But this is basically a document, you know, that is essential to be able to give you a bit of an overview of what to expect. So,
absolutely.
If we continue.
So again, yeah, you just pop your meeting name in there, start time to finish time,
yep.
Meeting called by. It's important to know who's arranged the meeting. Sort of contextualizes a little bit, so that's what we asked you to do that. Again, the attendees. Now, why are we asking for attendees? You already put a list of attendees on the last one. The last one was a notice.
Yep.
So this is the actual official agenda. Now, depending on who is coming and who's not coming, that'll actually affect what our meeting agenda items are, which is why we have a separate template for our agenda, because, well, look, depending on who's going to be there, it might depend on who's going to be speaking, who's going to be inclusive, or what sort of decisions might be made or may not be made given who's going to be there. So they are completely separate. You want to organise your notice, your meeting notice, much earlier than obviously than this, and as mentioned, depending on who's there, will depend on what gets placed or runs through your agenda. So therefore, we do need you to list again the attendees. Again, I'd like to see next to each name also, just like we did before. Actually, that's a really good point. So any apologies should be put on there as well. So what do we mean by apologies? Those that effectively are unable to make that meeting, we call them apologies. So we would like to see those, and it's actually important too, because it's good to know who the intended audience are. So when you're effectively trying to make some decisions, you know that yes, that our whole department was included in this, or these are the people that were designed to be included as part of this process. So you might consider those people if they're not there, and how things might impact them and affect them. So it's important to know who all of the invited participants are, but obviously who's there in attendance actually. Yeah, well, both the last two, they very well might be apologies.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
For a couple of reasons. In any case, please read. Now, this is another important thing. What we're effectively asking you to do here is just list some documents that the guys will need to have pre-read or reviewed. Yep. So there might be some background information now. It might be, I mean, we're talking about work health and safety meeting. Now there might be some sort of legislative change, for example, that is part of why we're having this meeting, and we want to come up with just an approach to how we're going to roll it out, or what training we might do, whatever the meeting's about. That's fine. But the actual legislative change, the changes in that particular legislation might be relevant pre-reading. If you haven't read it, then the conversations it's going to take, we could spend an hour in the meeting room getting everybody up to speed with the changes before we start making decisions, or we can tell people to go off and read it in your own time, come back when you're in the meeting together with us now. We can be ready to make some decisions, therefore saving a bit of time. It's also really important to save people time. So pre-reading is a great way to keep your meetings efficient as well, keep them on track, and give everybody the background information they need to be involved in that meeting. So, and please bring. So, what is there an example of something that you might be requesting that participants bring?
Maybe we could bring a departmental policy or procedure for work health and safety. Maybe we could bring, what else might we bring to a meeting? Maybe we could bring past minutes or something.
Yep. You might have evidence of emails or evidence of letters that you've received that relate to issues of workplace health and safety.
Yep.
You might bring some sort of additional, look, evidence might be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you might be wanting to bring something up. Yeah, you might, exactly. Okay, so that's clever too.
Yeah.
Or it might be simple that it might just be asked that you bring pen and paper, bring something to take notes on, because you'll be required to do that. It might be a creative sort of a session, so it might be an outside meeting. Depending on where the meeting is, it might ask you to bring steel cap boots because the meeting's going to be actually in the warehouse. Bring Play-Doh because we're going to get you to do a creative exercise, and we want you to, don't bring your comfy shoes or something because we're going to do. Depends on what the meeting is as to what you're going to ask the guys to bring.
Yeah.
But I would, the guys need to be able to provide at least an example of something to read and to bring, and it's got to be relevant to their meeting. So the guys can choose whatever they want for the meeting. They can make up the agenda. That's absolutely fine. But these components have to be, there's got to be some sort of relevance. So provide at least one.
Yep.
In each of those areas.
Yep.
You're a very fast typer, Alyssa.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, I might have been a little early on that compliment.
You were a little bit early on that compliment. It was too much pressure.
No, you're
pressure.
We love a bit of pressure. Okay, let's go down to the actual body of this actual document, which is this is your actual meeting agenda. Now it's actually broken down into time frames. This is actually an all-day meeting. So basically, it's something that it might be an example of when the company are designing their new strategic direction for the next 12 months or 3 years, whatever it might be. They're often called strategic planning days. Now, I used to be involved in these when I used to work in the music publishing business. What they used to do for their strategic planning days was they would find a location off-site so that they would get their staff members out of their usual environment so that they could just get them to think, just to think outside the square a little bit, to think of some new ideas, not to be buoyed by the environment. So sometimes your environment's actually a big player in, how things are, how things go down. If you do a meeting in a warehouse, it may have a very different connotation to it, or a different feeling to it to what you might have if you do it in the boardroom, for example. If you take your meeting out on a walk or out to the park or outside, it might have a different, depending on what you're wanting to achieve, is probably should be really what dictates your environment. So because these strategic planning days are a one-day, full-day, once-a-year thing that the business used to do, they picked a new location every year. They did it off-site. They were, catering. They made sure we had enough food and everything was relaxed and all of those sorts of things. It was a fun day, but it was a creative day. It was a very serious day for the business, but at the same time, they tried to create a real atmosphere of sort of creativity. So location's important. Here we just want you to, give us all of the bits and pieces of what's going to happen. So in each of those boxes, welcome, content, and wrap up, you need to give us the actual key areas, what's going to be talked about.
Yeah.
So where it says content from 10 a.m. till 12 or from 1 p.m. till 4 p.m., you've got to give us the actual points, the actual areas that are going to be brought up and for how long they're going to be brought up for. The other thing that we want to know is the actual location. So at some point on this document, I think in the top right-hand corner there, yep, we want to know where the actual location is. So, you know, maybe tell us where the location is. And we also want to know who's involved, because there may be components of this agenda that don't incorporate every single person. So the last 1 hour, it may be that only the heads of department are there for a final decision, but potentially not all, but potentially all people are required to be in the other parts of it. So yeah, so really what we want you to do in that right-hand column is to give us the location, give us the attendees for each section. So all attendees or specific attendees, because the location might change between things. It's probably unlikely, but it might. And what else did you want? You wanted some, Alyssa, some documents.
Because I think what we've done here is we've identified what needs to be read. My only other suggestion might be just to like relate the documents that you've identified or that you've requested your team to read to the actual sections where they come into play in the meeting. So say, for example, one of the documents up here we've requested them to read is, say, the legislative update. So perhaps it might be relevant in here. So legislative update document, say, for example.
It's basically like additional information, really, isn't it, that column? Additional info,
yeah,
or additional, you know, it's basically additional information or instructions relating to what you've actually put in there in the previous one.
Yep. Yeah.
So how many items do you want to see on this agenda? I mean, I think it's fair to say at least 6 to 10, something like that.
Yeah,
am I on the right track?
Yeah, I definitely think at least 6 to 10. Depending on the length of your meeting as well, you might actually have more. I think on a meeting that goes from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. you would have quite a few agenda items.
Okay, so minimum 10. Minimum 10. Let's
minimum 10.
Let's call it.
Yep.
10 items.
Yep.
And an item might be decide on blah, and that is 30 minutes allocated to the decision of whatever that decision is. Before that, you might spend an hour coming up with a list of, you know, brainstorm a list of 3 solutions. So whatever, you know, come up, you have to tell us what each item is.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, I think,
okay.
Yeah.
And what happens below? There's some additional instructions for the guys as well, additional information. So any additional instructions. Now that could be like how to get, you know, how to find a car park at this place, you know, what tram to take from where to get to the location. It might be just go to reception and mention that you're part of the X, Y, and Z meeting. So it might be information on how to get there. It might be information on where to find some of the pre-reading or documents. So if you have any problems in accessing some of the policies some of the pre-readings, contact Jenny in recruitment or whatever, or Jenny in HR, and she'll organise that for you. Yeah, it might be some information on catering. Quite often what you see in these, and I've seen this before with these sort of agenda items that fly around, especially for those strategic planning days they always used to refer to things like, you know, catering will be provided. There's always something that was mentioned on those things, because it would tell me that I don't have to worry about, you know, packing a sandwich for myself that morning. I know there's going to be food there.
Yeah.
So that's important that you tell people that sort of stuff. So anything else that you can add? Look, I'm wanting to see, you know, 1 or 2 items in here at least.
Yep.
You happy with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I think we're done with this one. Actually, no. Is there any more to this assessment?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, so you can see, guys. Sorry, you can see, guys. It's just a couple of things to do there. It's quite straightforward.
Yeah, nice and easy, that one.
Okay, so let's have a look at the next one.
Yeah, let's have a look at that next one. So as Adam mentioned before, that next assessment activity is actually very similar, or is actually a learning activity itself. So when my computer loads up, beautiful. Okay, great. You can see here. So are you happy for me to read through that, the background and
Yeah.
the scenario itself? Okay.
Would you like to read the background and the scenario for
Oh,
students?
let's do it. Um,
Yeah, go for it.
So there are a series of questions following this. So all you'll have to do is make sure you obviously have a read through your background and your scenario and you answer I think there's about 9 questions attached.
Yep.
But basically you're the
Go for it.
yeah, so you're the newly
Sorry.
appointed manager at Castle Homewares, a furniture and homeware company. During your first week at work, you call a meeting to discuss a new product suite, introduced yourself and talk about your role as well as addressing an ongoing WHS issue. The general vibe of the company culture is very informal. Whilst you're happy to work with a fair degree of informality, you're keen to get some clear systems and processes up and running to iron out some operational problems the company's having. The 2 meetings you've attended prior to your appointment as manager were unstructured, long and ineffectual. At your last company, the conventions for meetings were more formal. These included a chairperson appointed by a vote, a process to follow should there be a conflict of interest between meeting participants, shared agreement or a consensus required upon the conclusion of the meeting, moving and seconding formal motions, keeping discussions on track by adhering to the agenda items, a time limit on speakers' contributions and voting procedures. Back at your new job, you have noticed a few inappropriate comments from a member of the team. On several occasions, a team member called Stan has made joking comments about another staff member, Diane's age. You understand the team are accustomed to an informal atmosphere, but are concerned at the apparent lack of regard for legal and ethical concerns. The policy for the company database, i.e. anti-discrimination, are outdated or non-existent. Another area you feel needs improvement.
So that's a background.
Yeah.
Now there's a scenario. So it's actually a combination of the background and the scenario that you need to read in order to complete. Your reading is beautiful. Would you like to continue?
I'd like to continue. Thank you, Adam. I've just had a sip of water. The team of 10 file into the meeting room, noisily taking their seats. Staff are talking amongst themselves about plans for the weekend. It takes them a while to settle into the meeting. You notice no one has brought a copy of the agenda you emailed earlier in the day, so you read from your own. You clear your throat and ask the team to listen to the first item on the agenda, projecting your voice clearly above the noise. A work health and safety issue that has cropped up in the staff kitchen. Staff have been accidentally leaving the sandwich press on, causing a potential fire hazard. In addition, the toaster and other appliances have been left near the sink, often filled with water, another potential electrocution hazard. To engage all participants, you ask, okay guys, what can we do to make our kitchen safer? Do your dishes, Di? And mine. That's a girl, calls out Stan. Diane frowns. Make a bigger sign. Everyone's ignoring the tiny sign there now, she answers. Stan proceeds to talk at length, offering mostly irrelevant suggestions. Thanks for your thoughts. I'll have to cut you short there, Stan, you interject pleasantly. We need to stick to our time frame. So do others have suggestions? Plug the appliances in at the socket away from the sink and tape the cords to the wall so they're not likely to be moved, ventures another staff member, Paul. Good ideas. Anything else, you ask, looking around the table. Jerry? You prompt, knowing Jerry is hard of hearing. Jerry smiles and asks you to repeat the question. How about we tag the sandwich press label so people stop getting it mixed up with the toaster, and also make a brightly coloured off sign, he suggests. Okay, good work. You praise the team, writing the ideas onto a whiteboard at the front of the room. To recap, as receptionist Bree, could you create the tag and signs and place them in the kitchen? Everyone take responsibility to do your own dishes and clean up after yourself. Read the signs to remind yourself to turn things off. Is everyone in agreement? People nod and agree around the table. Great. Let's move on to our next item. You say scanning your agenda. Right.
Okay.
That's a longie. All right. So,
That's a good one. Actually, I was feeling very relaxed listening to you reading that. It was like, you know, getting bedtime stories from back in the day. It was lovely. So now, when the guys complete this, when you open it up, as you can see, it looks just like the learning activities look like. So you may need to have one window open to have your background and to have your scenario available to you, and you might need to have a second tab open to complete your answers and so forth. So we're just going to briefly take you through some of these questions.
yeah.
And really, the work that you need to do is just, here's 9 questions, really straightforward. It's just like a new learning activity, except instead of having a whole heap of material, we've just given you a particular scenario, a situation with a bit of background, and yeah. So the first question is, what meeting conventions did you apply to this meeting in order to give it structure and achieve your outcomes? Now, if you remember, or don't have to remember, but if you actually look at the original assessment, the background, there's a component that says background, actually talks about some previous conventions that you used to use in your old company. So some of those were having a chairperson and a certain process and a shared consensus, and you know, how they deal with keeping discussions on track, and I think they had like a time limit for speakers and things like that. So they were conventions that were applied to the old company. What we want to know is what sort of conventions did they apply to this meeting. So you'll have to look at the scenario, read the scenario, because there's a couple of times where you can see that there's some conventions that are being pushed or some processes being pushed. What we're looking for is that sort of structure. How are things sort of structured? You know, what are the rules for the actual rules of engagement, I guess you could say, for the actual meeting itself. Now that's for question 1. So now we're up to question 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've just typed it in question 2. Sorry.
You have. You're ahead of the game. That's good. That's good.
Okay.
So question number 2 is why might Stan's comments to Diane be inappropriate for the workplace and not suitable during a meeting? And actually, I'll get you to open up question 3 at the same time, Alyssa.
Sure.
Because it's a combo question, we could pretty much have put these together.
Yep.
Which piece of legislation may pertain to this type of comment?
Yep.
So these 2 questions are effectively referring to the same thing. What we want to know is, A, what specific piece of legislation, include the date, always include the date when referring to legislation, what specific piece of legislation may have been breached or may be in relation to the issue here, and you know, just broadly speaking, we'd like you to explain in question 2 why you feel that Stan's comments to Diane may be inappropriate for the workplace.
Yep.
And not suitable for a meeting. So just discuss it, you know, in terms of general terms, why it's inappropriate in the workplace and not suitable, and then question 3, give us the actual specifics, the actual specific piece of legislation and the date.
Yep.
Question 4.
All right. Here we go. Question 4.
Now, question 4 asks you to think a little bit creatively. So how did you conduct this meeting to ensure the participants were focused and you didn't waste time on irrelevant matters? So what you need to do is just read the scenario, and it's asking you what did you do during that to ensure the participants were focused and didn't waste time on irrelevant matters. It's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to give you any more than that. Alyssa, any more comments before we move to the next one?
No, I think it is quite specifically outlined in that case study. So yeah, all the scenario. So yeah.
Next question, question 5. Provide an example of how you encourage participation, discussion, and problem solving. What methods did you use? So again, it's a very small scenario. Read the scenario over again. We want you to actually give us the times, the examples, where you have specifically encouraged participants to discuss and problem solve. What did you do? How did you do it? There's a couple of things in there. There's a couple of times where you can see that you've actually, when we say you, the first person that it's referring to in this scenario, has encouraged participation, but they've also done a few other things that aren't really written in black and white too. So we want you to actually identify that as a whole. You know, what's the problem-solving process really? What's the actual overarching, you know, method that you've engaged or used with to come to your sort of solution? So that's what we want you to answer there. Question
6.
Oh, well, that's actually, sorry, it's a combination between 5 and 6 then too. Yeah.
How did you a resolution for the issue of the unsafe? Yeah.
I guess I started talking about question 6 at the end of 5 there, but so yeah, okay, in 6, that's I guess where we're asking you to tell us how the resolution of the issue was, or how did you ensure that a resolution
of
the issue was. Yeah. So again, it's pretty similar about, you know, in terms of the one before. So how you encourage participation, but also what methods did you use. This one is a little bit the same. So I guess what you could do to answer that is also reiterate the methods that you used to engage everybody together and ensure that the resolution was taken care of. I think we just leave that one alone. These are they're pretty straightforward questions for the guide. So question 7, what communication skills have you used to interact with your team and get them all on board? So, you know, what sort of things, what sort of communication techniques, or what sort of things did you say? That's probably an easier way to word this question. What sort of things did you say to interact with your team and get them on board with the program? That's all you have to sort of answer there. It's pretty straightforward. Have a look at the scenario. Question 8. How did you both encourage and incorporate feedback when developing a plan for the team? Again, we're doubling up on a lot of things. If you do double up on some of these, don't worry about it. It's okay. We've just actually put more questions than necessary here just to make sure we've covered all areas. Question 9. How do you make sure that you include everyone in the room as well as appropriate communication? Okay, so again, we're replaying a bit of the same sort of stuff again, but, you know, just give us a couple of examples of where we've demonstrated that we've tried to encourage participation. So, you know, give us an example of when we've said, okay, cool, what else? Or I think there was somebody that was hard of hearing in that example, so what do we do to get them involved? Yeah. And when you're going to have that one done. So that's assessment task 2, Alyssa.
Yeah, and it's really just about us seeing, I guess, how how you handle yourself in that particular situation. So given those scenario details, and it really is about communicating, so you will definitely find that you kind of double up a little bit there. All right,
yeah.
I'm just going back to that last assessment now.
Perfect.
Okay. All right.
And that's it, guys. This is another subject hopefully in the bag for you. I mean, some of the earlier subjects are a bit intensive, but
great. Oh, lovely one.
You know, this is a good one. This is really, we're asking you to, okay, so let me just say that it's not meant to be 500 words or less. It's meant to be a minimum of 500 words. So by the time students actually open it, they'll see that. I'll have that fixed.
Yep. And I guess this one,
actually, I could probably fix it right now.
Okay.
In fact, let's do that.
And I guess in terms of this part of the assessment, which is assessment task 3, which is all about taking meeting minutes. So I guess what you've really got to think about here is, and the focus around here is the importance of actually minuting your meetings, you know, how you might store them, why are they so incredibly important. So when you're looking at these particular questions here, this is really the perspective that we want to look at. We want you to make sure that you understand, you know, how important this part of the process of managing meetings is.
Yep. Alyssa, I'll just get you to mute C's microphone, please.
Sure, no dramas. I think it's already muted. Yeah, it's already muted. Okay. All right. So we have a quick look. While you're typing, shall I start to go through some of these areas there, Adam?
Yes.
Okay, lovely. So obviously Adam's just fixing up that
yeah.
The crop.
I'm going to fix it tomorrow. I'll be with you now. Let's get it together. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah. So obviously what we're looking for is we're looking for a minimum of 500 words here. And there are just a series of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 little questions in there. So it's very, very easy to get to that 500 word criteria. So they really are just, as I mentioned, all around, you know, focusing on the importance of those meeting minutes that you obviously have to take at every meeting. So I guess the very first question is, why is it important to take meeting minutes? And, you know, I think it should be standardised for every meeting that you do attend. Somebody needs to document what gets said. Somebody needs to, you know, take an idea and take down information, especially when you're allocating tasks. It is really, really important to document these meeting minutes as well. From a legislative point of view, they do become a legal document, so they can be used in other facets or externally too. So there is a lot of different reasons why it is important and essential to take meeting minutes. Yep.
Absolutely. I mean, and look, the meeting minutes are the sort of living, breathing document, I guess, that follows the meeting. I mean, a meeting is a very short period of time that ends and it's over. You know, it's also risk mitigation as well, because it makes sure that we know that those that were in attendance are all getting the same information, that there's not factions or groups of people that were in the meeting that understood one thing but others that understood it to be another thing.
Yeah.
There's no sort of disagreement, and actually one of the next questions actually sort of addresses that a little bit too. But so what we want you to do is, why is it important, and what do they sort of typically consist of? What are the sort of things that you're going to find in your meeting minutes? I want the guys to, this is an easy assessment. I'm going to be pretty straight up and down about it. It's a very easy assessment. This one, we want quality answers.
Yep.
We're going to be pretty tough on you guys. So if you just give us a couple of things that meeting minutes consist of, it's not enough. So we really just want to see that you understand, what really goes into the meeting minutes. Is there a minimum of, I guess probably, look, I would sort of suggest, look, the course material has at least 10 things that they actually list off for you right there in terms of what's going to be on a meeting minute.
Yeah. And you just got to describe what is actually on meeting minutes and what they consist of. I mean, I don't think you have to go into excessive amounts of depth explaining each component, but really do just try and make sure that you identify to us, because there's not an activity where you have to submit any meeting minutes, but it's important that you, I guess, know what they look like and what their purpose is, and I guess the structure of them as well, or their components essentially. So, although there's no word limit there, I think it's really important that that all those aspects do get addressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Next question.
Why should minutes be brief and factual?
Okay, so for me, I mean, look, it's hard to kind of do it without giving away the answer, but, part of the reason why we're sending minutes out is just that everybody is on the same page. There, as I said, there's not that sort of divide between people that were in the meeting that might have thought one thing or the other. The longer, have you ever sort of come to that point where, you know something really well when you can explain it so simply and basically? I did a really bad job of explaining it. Some people that know something so well have an innate ability to explain it on such a simple level.
Mm.
And I think when you over-explain something, you over-complicate something, you make it more likely to be ambiguous quite often. It's not always the case, but quite often when you add more layers and levels to something, you're actually asking more questions. People are, well, hang on, are they referring to this or that? When they say this, do they mean this or that? And it starts to get a little bit fuzzy.
Yeah.
So it's important that they're obviously it's important they're factual. We know why it's important they're factual. We don't want people doing different things, otherwise the whole purpose of the meeting is null and void. But why should they be brief? Look, there are probably a few reasons to go for this, but for me it's about sort of removing any confusion, removing any ambiguity, and making sure that what's said is very clear, basically, which is why you would keep it brief.
Yeah, and you've already attended the meeting where everything's been expanded on and discussed. So the minutes should actually reflect the key points that are raised, the factual key points. So essentially that for me is why they should be brief. Because if I've been to the meeting previously, and then I get a very well detailed minute, it's like I'm reliving it where I don't necessarily have to. They should be quite brief.
Okay. Yeah. Next question. Why or what are some ways that you could record and store meeting minutes? Two methods. Yep. There's not much more to say about this. Just two ways. Again, it's all in the material, guys. It's pretty straightforward. Next question.
Yeah. What should effective minutes achieve? Summarize the main points. Again, I guess. Yep. This is kind of very inclusive of why is it important to take meeting minutes, why should they be brief and factual, what are they meant to achieve. Adam's talked a lot about, consistency and making sure that people are all on the same page together. They do essentially look at allocating actions to certain people, so there's a level of accountability in there. They're meant to drive and be about continuous improvement. That's the whole purpose of a meeting is, I guess, as you said, Adam, before, things like discuss, divulge, disclose, or all the 3 Ds there, or the 5 Ds before. you know, a
Uh,
minute, yeah, minutes are designed really to, I guess, as we've already mentioned, to, you know, to kind of give you a bit of an overview and give you direction and showcase what's being said, but also, you know, achieve that whole accountability and kind of consistency, and people are all on the same page, I think.
Guys, here's the big tip. There's a page on your learning materials that's perfect for this. That's called Closing the Meeting. So click on Closing the Meeting on your learning materials and look under the subheading Minutes, not Hours. It talks about minutes there to basically record basic information such as the actions assigned, the decisions made, not the 30 minutes, you know, word for word, note for note,
Yeah.
verbatim, transliteration of the chairperson's, yep, you know what I'm saying there?
Yeah, totally.
Gone about it a long way. But there's a underneath that particular area talks about some of the things that you're going to include, or you know what effective minutes should be achieving and should be inclusive of. So go to the materials, give us some good stuff there, summarize the main points. Again, we want quality answers here. We're not going to accept anything less than quality answers. Next question, Alyssa.
Yes, so that next question is really, how might accurate minutes provide clarity for what actually happened during a meeting?
Now, it's pretty sort of self-explanatory for the most part. You can tell us what might happen if you don't put
Yeah.
accurate minutes down, what might happen. But yeah, I mean, it's all in there, guys. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, yeah, there's a lot of questions with regards to meeting minutes, so they might kind of interject with each other. But
yep.
is it important to distribute meeting minutes in a timely manner? If so, why?
Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah,
it's all in the content there, guys. So I would go to the content. I mean, broadly speaking, while things are fresh in people's minds, you probably want to communicate it. If there was a disagreement about a resolution, if there was any disagreement about what's been put in the meeting notes, the earlier the better, because otherwise people will forget. Guys, expand on that though.
yeah.
That's the basic basis of it, but expand on that. That's the main sort of thing.
Yeah, and I guess that last question is very similar. So as a minute taker, should you check your notes to ensure they reflect the meeting accurately? If so,
Yep.
why? Yeah.
And look, those last two questions are kind of linked. As you said, there might be a bit of overlap here. That's okay, guys. We've given you a heap of questions to make sure that we've covered everything, so that just in case you didn't cover it in one, you might cover another. That might mean you've got some overlap. That's okay. You know, we're talking about why should you ensure that you know, that you should check your notes to ensure that they're reflective of, and why do we distribute them in a timely manner? Well, kind of both for the same thing. You check it to make sure that it's reflective, but you also distribute it in a timely manner to make sure that it's accurate as well. Because if I send out the meeting minutes and then Alyssa, you turn around and say, oh, hang on, I was under the impression that we agreed on something else, then I could double check that I got the minutes right, then send an amendment out for those minutes. Say, everybody, apologies for my last email. Here's the actual updated minutes from our meeting. It was actually resolution B, not resolution A. Apologies, thank you very much. So, you know, that's why we do it quickly. That's why we want to check all our work. They're all kind of linked. For the guys putting this together, copy and paste those questions and put your answers under each question. That way we can see exactly what your response is to each. Therefore, if there is a bit of double up, it doesn't matter because we can see, you know, that you've tried to answer that question in isolation. So it doesn't matter that there's a bit of double up. The 500 words you'll be able to do on, you know, upside down, underwater. I would have thought by now you guys we've gotten you to do 1,500 word, 1,000 word. This is 500 word. I probably think it should be closer to 1,000 words, this one. But I think anything less than 750 words, and you've probably gone a bit too short on it.
Yeah.
So again, it's quality we're looking for. If you can get it in 500 words, good on you. No,
Yep.
then absolutely, good luck to you.
Yep.
Add a bit more. If you're not sure, add a little bit more because we just want to see the quality of response here.
Yep.
And then the subject's done. It's not an overly complicated subject. It's all about meetings and managing meetings, and it's all sort of common sense sort of stuff in many ways. Although if you've never sort of been in business and involved in those processes, then, you know, I guess they are kind of new things. But it's nothing overly technical or theoretical, I guess. So don't second guess yourself. With this one, just list off all of the questions and put your answers underneath so we can see exactly where you've answered it, and I think we'll be pretty happy. Alyssa?
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. I think, yeah, just like really just nut it out. I mean, I think, get it done. I think as Adam mentioned, it's quite friendly, this particular series of assessments. So yeah, I mean, it's quite straightforward. Just make sure you address every single point in those assessment tasks, and yeah, hopefully, if you have any questions, you can always obviously come to Adam and I. If you're not sure about something, but yeah, I mean, I think yeah, it's quite a good little assessment there.
Okay, very good, very, very good. So minimum of 500 words, guys, and that's it.
Yeah, I
I
guess.
think that basically wraps up this session
Yeah.
too. Just a public service announcement, Diploma of Business students, you will be actually having 2 subjects starting next week. So the 2 subjects running next week will be run on a Monday night and on a Wednesday, I think afternoon, 4 to 5, I think something like that. We'll confirm that. But the 2 subjects are leadership in the workplace and business documents. So if you've completed leadership in the workplace is also known as show leadership in the workplace. Business documents is also known as manage business document design. They're the 2 subjects that business students will be getting next week. Have a look at tomorrow. I'm actually going to be uploading or sending out the links and uploading the new links to those sessions and uploading the videos as well from this week's sessions too. So keep an eye out, business students. There'll be 3. Actually, we had 3 completed subjects this week: staff recruitment, effective communication, and make a presentation. All completed. All will be uploaded by tomorrow, along with links and messages for next week's sessions. Thanks very, very much for your attendance. Thanks very much for tuning in. If you're watching in on the video, on the YouTube clip. And anything else you'd like to add, Lisa, before we end the session?
No, have a lovely Wednesday evening, everybody.
Indeed.
Tomorrow's Thursday, yay. All right.
No, it's Wednesday, I believe, isn't it?
Tomorrow's Thursday.
I think it's Wednesday today.
Yeah, today's Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday.
You're right. Thursday usually comes after Wednesday, I believe.
I know, I was like, have a great
memory. I'm not. Anyway, we're all a bit confused here.
All right, everybody.
Thanks very much, guys.
Yeah.
Nice to have you here as always. Any questions, we'll field your questions after, shortly after.
Yeah, absolutely. Good night.